Rob, if you only had 1 minute to give music artists the best advice you possibly could, what would you say? 1 minute on the clock.
1 minute advice for a music artist or a label. I'd say be everywhere your fans are. A lot of people pick digital only approach. In the past, physical only approach. You really want to be everywhere you can, wherever your fans experience music. You want to be there. So that is the advice I've given out for a long time. And this is all the way from physical being the only game in town, to downloads, to streaming, now to physical again. It's really important to be everywhere where your fans can discover your music.
You even need the whole minute.
You even need the full minute.
and so we're going to go into a lot of things, but I originally talked to you because you have this awesome company called Spinny Media that helps with physical music distribution for artists, and not in a way that's unapproachable. Like any kind of indie artist with like 10 CDs or whatever can hit you guys up and you can help them sell their music, which is amazing. Sell their physical music so the artist doesn't have to deal with that. We're going to get into that, but you've had this pretty epic career in music industry with physical distribution. And so I think the first thing I just want to go through is just, I guess you call it the evolution of physical music distribution through the lens of like your music career working in this field over the last, I don't even know how long, but
decades. Like when you get to my age, you just say decades. It's just a shortcut. But yeah, I was working in a frozen yogurt shop when I got recruited to join a music retail place called Warehouse Music back in 1987. So, I'm 18, going in, taking records out of the bin to make room for CDs in long boxes. So there'll only be some people who know what a long box is, but basically it was a shortcut to use the record bins to hold CDs. So everything back then was physical. The industry was very unfriendly to independent artists. You either got signed or you played locally, and that was pretty much it. Radio was closed off. 6 major labels had 80% of the industry, and there were 20% of independent labels, some of whom were still around, like Beggar's Banquet and others, who were looking out for artists and developing artists that were more emerging acts or cutting edge or something the majors wouldn't touch. But if you didn't pass that A&R, that audition, you didn't have a commercial career in music outside of developing a profile, touring, doing your own thing. But recorded music was just off the table. Derek Sivers comes along. He starts a company called CD Baby. He's an independent musician. He invites a bunch of friends who are also independent musicians and challenges the system. At that point, they're only doing physical albums, but he invites everybody in. Like, we'll stock anybody who's a musician or a label. So I really look at him as one of the leaders on the indie side. And then on the musician side, you also had people like Bob Mould coming together and releasing an indie album that sold 500,000 copies. You have folks along those lines who are kind of starting to break down the barriers a little bit. But again, that's 1998. That's a long time to be sitting on your hands and trying to book local gigs. Or break through and get signed. So my own journey kind of in parallel to that is in 1998, I was joining a company that sold books online called Amazon. That's all they did. They were just getting into the music biz and had a bunch of us who had music industry experience, brought us in to help understand how to do music, again, just physically. Digital downloads weren't a thing yet. So this is really 1987 to the late 1990s, physical game, and there's starting to be hints that the industry is going to change a little bit around independent musicians and labels. Yeah. That really starts to change when digital comes along. So 2004 to 2006, I'm going to skip the Napster era, but we'll come back to it. But 2004, 2006, Apple comes into digital downloads and kind of makes it a business model. CD Baby is one of the first to sign with Apple Music on the independent side. So they're doing physical now, they're doing digital downloads. So CD Baby is really this crux of creating a new way for independent musicians and labels to sell their music. So hats off to Derek and the team, many of whom I've had the opportunity now to work with. Obviously, I'm skipping over 2000, 2004, even late 90s. That's the Napster era. File sharing, music is free. I left the industry for a little bit because I'm like, I don't know. And then came back in 2009 myself to actually.
That was really when I started getting into music myself. Like I was born in 91.
Yeah.
Around the age of like 12 is when I started like playing guitar and then really caring about music. And I never used Napster, but I used Kazaa and
Yep.
LimeWire, which were around the same thing around the same time, and then BitTorrent and all that. And um, yeah,
Yeah, I
anyways,
think behind the scenes, the industry, and again, the six majors as they're consolidating down, these were the stuck in the desert times for the industry. There's the vinyl boom and then decline. There's the CD boom, really 1987 through the mid to even late 90s. But as digital file sharing starts to take off, you can see from an industry perspective that revenues start to plummet because music for a time is free. The industry gets very litigious and goes after file sharers and file sharing companies. And then Apple comes in and says, "Wait a second, I think we can make this work for everybody." So they really came and introduced some of the earliest kind of legit licensed digital downloads and brought it back into the business. And then the business is like, "Oh wait, this is just like another format." And we did vinyl, we did CDs, we did cassettes, we did digital audio tape, we did the digital mini CD, if anybody remembers that, for a whole year.
those are those little tiny CDs, right?
Yeah, tiny CDs. They actually were encased in this cartridge as well. There's a period where you had the digital audio cassette, which was kind of encased in this little box, little square cartridge. I remember them rolling out at industry shows in 1991. This was going to be the next thing. Basically, get everyone to buy their collections again, which is what the industry was depending on. Vinyl to CDs, great era for music labels because everyone's rebuying their collections. Now they'll have to buy it on this. And then digital swoops in and says, we got a better thing for portability and for listening on the go. So Apple made that effectively, offered a channel to kill those new physical formats for a time. Downloads became a thing, and then Spotify and a few others came along with streaming, really popped in the US in around 2012, and streaming became a thing. So along these lines, the industry is starting to break up. It's not six majors, now it's four, now it's three. Now there's more independent music labels, and also CD Baby and others now are doing what CD Baby's been doing and helping independent musicians find a place in physical and digital distribution. So that's all happening in the late 1990s and into the 2000s. But streaming comes along and is somewhere between downloads and free. You sign up for $9.99, and if you're an artist, you get micro pennies every time you're played, and maybe you win. Many will play, very few will win. That's been kind of the streaming experience, I think, for artists and labels. So for me, here I am in 2009, joining CD Baby, helping with physical distribution, and then getting promoted several times to become the COO for the company. So I manage digital and physical distribution, customer service, a bunch of other stuff. So I saw physical, I saw downloads, I saw streaming. And then I think over time, CD Baby and other companies were saying, well, with streaming, everyone's going to go digital only. And they placed the bets on digital only. So physical got de-emphasized, and over time at CD Baby in 2024, it disappeared. They no longer did physical distribution. So when I left CD Baby in April 2023, I started playing around with some different options for doing physical, bought and sold used vinyl for a while. But as soon as CD Baby announced it was shutting its warehouse, Spinney Media was born. So Spinney Media is kind of, for me, a return to physical, but opening up physical for all those independent artists and musicians that aren't selling 500 or more units on their albums yet. You can get in with larger physical distribution companies. I love the folks at Alliance and Amped. I love the folks I've met at Secretly. They do a really good job, but they curate. Storing stuff on the shelves costs money, and they really need their inventory to turn. So does Amazon and everybody else. So Spinny Media, we came up with a different way to do it, and you alluded to it earlier, but our system is accessible to everybody. You pay a small subscription, we store your stuff on the shelf, we list you on Amazon, eBay, and our own marketplace, and just set you up for success. You can do your day job, you can tour, you can list where your albums are available on your social accounts, and every time we get an order, we ship it for you. You don't have to go to the post office. So the idea was really to take all this experience I've had and all the people I work with who are primarily former CD Baby folks to reinvent the warehouse concept, but in a way that's really easy to access. And for us, we're making enough money on storage and on some shipping and handling margin that fans pay to make a business out of this.
Previously, over the last couple of years, I've had people tell me like, "Hey, I really want to do physical media as well, but I don't want to be managing inventory. I don't want to be going to the post office or packaging orders." And because that's what I did the last time
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with physical. I went to Atomic Disc and I bought a bunch of CDs, and I had 4 different albums, and I had CDs for each album, and I had stickers, and I had shirts, and I had basically just like tons of. Even still today, I have like a box of what they're called, like flat mailers for
Mm-hmm.
putting CDs, mailing them letter rate. This is 2 years after the fact. My office is still kind of in disarray from dealing all that, and it's a lot of work. It's partially fun. Um, hand dealing with the orders and signing the CDs and stuffing them in envelopes and handwriting letters to each of your fans, but it takes a lot of commitment to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of artists don't want to deal with it. It can be technically kind of challenging handling the shipping and everything required in making an online store. And so the only alternatives I heard of were what some slightly bigger artists, not like huge, but not like small, were using. And I won't mention them just because they're well, one I wouldn't recommend anyways, but they're also like, I guess, competitors in a way. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a few platforms I found that were like they were like a couple $100 a month, or they'd be like a big upfront fee, and it was like the per basically the more you paid, the lower your per unit rate was.
Yeah.
So it like wasn't something an indie artist could use because the amount you'd pay just kind of like made it too hard to actually sell your products at a reasonable rate, unless you were selling like maybe like 100 a month or something. And so when I found you guys and I saw like, oh, you can quite literally store 10 units or 100 units, and it's not this big amount of money per month. It's kind of like a very affordable rate per month, and then basically as you ship out units, you guys take you have your shipping rates baked in and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't want to I guess what's the word, toot your own horn too much here, but like your company's pricing model is fantastic. It's like
Thank
it's
you.
probably the most indie friendly pricing model business structure I've ever seen for something like this, which is awesome. So
Thank you. And I think our goal, and it sounds like at least from your perspective, we achieved it, is to be inexpensive, maybe even cheap, and simple.
yeah,
Those two are really important. You can go out, as you pointed out, to a third-party logistics company that says, "Oh, we do music too. Here's our storage fee. Here's our pick, pack, and ship fees, because there's not just one. Here's what we're going to charge you back, and then we're going to take a commission on top of that." Like, it's expensive. How are you going to make money from that? For us, we really kept the subscription fee fine for us. Like, we can stack in a rack and make plenty of money off the subscription fee. But we wanted several entry points to make it easy and affordable to do. And then we didn't want to tack on a bunch of fees or commissions. It's like shipping and handling, we got to recoup the shipping expenses. If your fans buy it from our marketplaces, they pay it. If we ship on your behalf, like on a Bandcamp order, something off that's not in our kind of system, we just charge you back shipping and handling, the literal cost plus $2 per package. And that's it. We just wanted to keep it simple. And that's, I think, really important because, again, musicians, you all, and label people heading up labels, you all have jobs to do. Like,
yeah,
this is really important. It can create revenue, it can create fan engagement, but it's not easy to do, and it's particularly not easy to do if it's not all in one shot. Doing a pre-sale campaign, 100 units at one time, you're going to spend a day on it. Sometimes that can really work. You're going to do your own Bandcamp stuff. Once you get past that, and you got 3 orders this week, none the next week, 5 the following week, something's going to break.
yeah, totally. When I was running my ads and promoting my offers for my CDs and everything, it was kind of easy to keep in the flow of it. But then once I stopped, I still had the links available. I just wasn't marketing it. And be like, oh, there's no orders for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden a couple, and I don't see them until a month later or
Yep.
something, right? And that's a whole problem too. But I want to pivot a bit to talking about because you've seen the physical only era go into the essentially I don't want to call it streaming only era, but streaming dominant
Yeah,
era.
for sure.
And you mentioned earlier that back in the day, it was basically impossible as an indie to get your music to people. Like you were basically touring, and that's how you get your music to fans.
Mm-hmm.
And you could sell your stuff there, but you weren't enough distribution, so to speak. So, you know, from everything you've seen, what do you think was a better time to be a musician? Like back in the day when you could make a lot more per fan because you were selling physical media at a decent price,
Mm-hmm.
but you were limited in people versus now when you have basically free worldwide distribution. Anyone can listen to your music for free because they already pay for subscription,
Mm-hmm.
but you're making fractions of a penny. Like, what do you think is actually better?
Yeah, so I think to answer the question directly, it's really in that 2004 and beyond period where you had the option to buy physical and the option to buy downloads as a fan, and both those actually pay the independent artist or label. There are companies like CD Baby, and there were some others coming along, TuneCore, and some others to name drop, um, who could provide both. Although I don't know that TuneCore ever had a physical option, but your fans had choices, and you got paid dollars, not micro pennies, for every sale. So you could kind of do the math. It's like, well, you can download it. That's convenient. That's portable. I don't make as much as I did on a CD, but I can add it up, and it adds up to something. I worked with artists like Gary Jules, as an example. He did a cover of Mad World Tears for Fears song, and it was on the Johnny Darko soundtrack.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah,
So
that's I like that version better than the original version.
yeah, so that coming out in the 2000s, like, wow, we got your physical, you got digital downloads. As an artist, you can make a career out of that. Where today, it's different. It's harder in some ways, and it's different. So you have to kind of switch your brain a little bit. Streaming's great for marketing and for portability. You still got to engage your fans. Streaming does not do that. Most people jump on a playlist, jump, jump, jump. It's a mood playlist. It's hard to get heard. There's 100,000 plus tracks being loaded to Spotify every single day. So there's so much content. So how do you engage your fans is now the question to solve. And then how do you offer them all the formats? I like Bandcamp. They still have a really good lossless digital download that you can offer through Bandcamp. That's awesome. You can do physical, and we can do fulfillment for you if you want on Bandcamp. That's awesome. I think that is the type of platform that allows you to engage your fans and make money from your music versus doing a digital only strategy. I'm just going to toss stuff out on all the streaming services and hope I win the lottery. Like, cool, it's really good to get your stuff out there, but chances are you're not going to get heard or not heard enough without some other plan for marketing, for touring to support, and then making money. And making money is, these days, physical, touring, maybe doing work with other musicians, whether it's on the kind of mastering side or other things. You kind of have to stitch it together. In the mid-2000s, you could actually make music, sell music, and make enough money to at least pay for the next album and pay for the rent.
Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of people assume that because I talk a lot about like growing Spotify and streaming platforms on my channel where this video is airing, is that like for some reason I'm not into the whole like physical music or like touring or selling digital download thing. But my typical advice for people is kind of like treat streaming like like one. Yes, you can make money from streaming. It's hard, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very difficult just because the payment per stream. But treat it like a place to find fans. It's got these great discovery algorithms baked in. You can be added to playlists and whatever, and you can promote it because like you're not going to sell anything if you don't have fans in the first place, right?
Right.
A fan will often find a band through streaming, and then if they become a fan of it, then they will go buy a physical unit nowadays. Like very rarely are people, there are cases of this, but like they find a band for the first time and then buying their vinyl, right? They find them on streaming or social media, and then they become like a hardcore fan, and then maybe they see them live, and then maybe they buy a vinyl or a CD.
Yep.
It's kind of like this. It's like the streaming is this entry point that's super easy and it's free. And what some people I know that do that I think is like a great strategy to make downloads and physical more important is instead of releasing their entire catalog on streaming, they release like 80% of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep the last 20% for Patreon, for Bandcamp, for digital downloads, for their exclusive like email club, for their physical media or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it works for every single genre. Like some genres are so streaming focused and like no one's buying anything. Where it's like it depends on the artist and what they're kind of going for. But I think that's like the nice medium and way you can like stitch these different pieces together is by like not putting every single thing you do in streaming, whether it's 80%, even 95%. You're saving just a little chunk, one extra song in an album.
Yep.
This song's exclusive to vinyl or exclusive to digital download and my physical stuff. I think that's enough for your super fans to be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll spend $15 in a CD or I'll spend $30 in a vinyl. And the packaging's really cool too. And I get an extra song out of it, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good piece of advice. Make the physical something special you can't get on streaming. Bonus tracks have been around for a long time, even when it's just physical. You get the new expanded edition with the bonus tracks, and super fans will do that. Being one myself, I have every version of X album from every country. I was also an import buyer for a music company, and that was just dangerous for me personally and for my bank account. But I think the questions start with, how many fans do you have and where are you finding them? Like, well, I'm just starting out. Well, streaming is a great place to put your music out. Try some things on social media. Get some people interested. Are you also playing? Can you play live? Some music is, stuff you tour on, some isn't. Yeah, I'm going to tour. Okay, well, cool. Start doing that around your neighborhood. Get physical for your merch table because people are going to want to buy it, want to interact with you, get a signature, and make it special. So it really depends on where someone's at in their career. Once you've established that, yeah, I've got, 1,000 fans or 100 fans, okay. Some of those like email me, they contact me, they comment on every social post. Cool. You've got your first handful of super fans. Then your strategy might be different. Some artists are releasing physical a week before they release on streaming platforms. Like if you're a super fan, get your physical, it'll be in the mail, you'll have it a week before anybody else. All those kind of strategies, I think, or tactics are really, really smart, and it just depends on where you're at in your career, what's going to make sense, and what your platforms are. I worked with a group when I was with CD Baby. They were a YouTube sensation, had maybe not a million there, but a lot of subscribers on YouTube. And they did kind of parody and comedy stuff, and they decided they're going to put out a CD in addition to all the digital fans they had. And they were going to do a pressing. Originally, they were thinking maybe 1,000 copies. They're like, maybe 5,000. Then they promised, for the price of $12.99 a CD, to sign every single copy. They have close to 1 million YouTube fans. Release day comes, and they have 42,000 copies sold. We were in the background repressing, flying someone down to LA to help them coordinate their signing and help keep them on task. They ended up signing all 42,000 copies. It took a couple months and getting
the
all
band
their
just
fans.
was like leaving. They all have carpal tunnel. And
It was so painful. I felt for both these guys. But I was there when one of them called home, called their parents, and said, you know what? We can do this full time now. Because they understood who their fans were. They did something special with those fans in a physical way. And by the way, they made $8 to $9 for every CD they sold. That's what they kept after expenses.
You said $8 or $9?
$8 or $9 for 42,000.
So 8 or 9, like if it's 10, so that's like $350,000 profit margin off of
on one CD.
Or release week.
Guess what they started doing every year? Releasing a CD. But they limited the run to 10,000 and they increased the price. So they still got the same bang, but they had these super fans who wanted to sign copies, and they didn't have to kill themselves doing it.
Yeah, now doing a little bit blast from the past. When you were at CD Baby back, I think you said like 2000.
Yeah, I was there 14 years, 2009, 2023.
Yeah, so pretty recently too, actually. But going back to then, like you were there when they still offered the physical distribution. I think you said it ended 2014.
2024 is when they shut down the warehouse. So
okay, wow.
Yeah.
They were still doing it in 2024.
Yep. It was different. Unfortunately, they made the decision to close the CD Baby Marketplace, which was kind of their place for musicians to sell their own music, kind of like Bandcamp, and keep the most money, so fewer fees and things like that. That shut down in March 2020. So if you remember March 2020, that was the beginning of COVID. So sadly, the timing of shutting that down at a time when we could have supported artists was particularly painful. But that really started this, move away from physical there. to focusing digital only, which is also what musicians were doing at the time. But we had a lot of success 2009 to even 2015, 2016, selling more and more physical every year because we were able to kind of professionalize our operations and all the lessons I've brought to Spinny, develop new channels to sell in. Amazon Marketplace was new. FBA was new in 2011, 2012, so we got involved with that early, and just made sure artists were everywhere where their fans are, which is kind of what I preached in my 30 seconds up front. It's really important. You never know where someone's going to discover you, and then you got to be in the channels that are actually going to pay the bills.
It's hard to be an artist and get on Amazon too. I noticed. Like I looked into it a couple of years ago, and they were like, we need like a signed document from the label saying that you own the rights to this, and we need like a letter of approval from the manufacturer saying that you are the. And I was like, I could generate those things, but like, it felt like the whole ecosystem for music on Amazon was very much set up for like a label world.
Yeah.
As the client and not for an individual artist. Like there's all these hoops you have to jump through to get on.
Yeah, they're even set more up for what they call brands, which are manufacturers. Who's your manufacturer? What's your brand? It's like, well, I put out my own stuff, and I guess I'm the brand or my label's the brand. It's really confusing. We've heard that a lot from artists joining Spinny, and I'm going to cross my fingers visually. Right now, 100% of everyone that submitted to Spinny Media is up on Amazon. Even older albums, which originally were a little tough for those same reasons. We worked really closely with the legal team and our friends over at CD Baby to make sure we had a letter of authorization to sell stuff that used to appear on CD Baby. And then we worked with Amazon for months, literally for months, to get every single one up. New albums were pretty easy for us. Older albums were a little harder. But again, crossing my fingers right now, 100% of everything that's come through Spinny is up on Amazon. And it is hard. We heard that back from a lot of labels and artists. They're like, oh my God, you got this album up? I've been trying for 8 years. And then weeks later I said, hey, we got the rest up. Your entire catalog's on Amazon now. And they're just thrilled.
I know a guy who does amazing on Amazon. Like he lists his own music on there. He has like 20 albums on there over his 30-year music career. And he crushes on Amazon for CDs. He's in a genre. I don't want to give him away, but he's in a genre that is like very conducive to people buying physical media, and so he runs Amazon ads promoting it too, and he actually profits and makes a killing off of the sell single thing. It's nowadays it's really just about the marketing more than anything. Like if it was just about like art and music, I think most artists would prefer just to release an album every year or two, and that would be it. But with the way marketing is, it's you need something to constantly talk about on social media, and you need like these Spotify and Apple Music, etc. algorithms to have something like recent to kind of push out. Because if you drop a 10-song album and then come back 2 years later with a 10-song album, they're not going to push that thing for the whole period of time, and you can only pitch one song per released editorial, and so everything on all these platforms is set up for singles, and so. A lot of time when I'm talking to artists who have albums, there's usually a discussion of how many singles are we going to do. And me as the marketing guy, I'm usually pushing them to do as many as possible. But there's this talk about like what's comfortable for you. You have a 12-song album. Are you comfortable doing 7 or 8 singles? And for some people, they're like, oh yeah, we can do 11. I don't care. And it kind of depends on the record too, because for certain albums, it just doesn't make sense. Like I don't think anyone would ever go to like Dream Theater or Tool or Pink Floyd or something and be like, let's do 8 out of songs as singles. And you wouldn't have to as a big artist anyways. But if you have a progressive album or concept album or something, you might do 1 single.
Or you might do radio cuts of your song.
Yeah.
Do that, 3 no longer than 5-minute cuts of your song to be able to position it for easy listening, for easy promotion, maybe for radio if you can get to radio.
Yeah, and some artists are really comfortable with like I want to get as much as I can out of this record. Let's go ham in the marketing, but it depends on the fans too. So some artists they have to set their own line of like, this is the artistic side, this is the business side. Like where in that slider do they live? And what are they comfortable doing, and what will their fans accept? Because certain genres of music, fans are going to be like, this is an album, I've heard 9 out of 12 songs. Like, I'm not going to check it out because I've already heard most of it already.
Yeah, and
There's
I
no
think
mysteriousness, whatever.
it sounds like you're finding kind of with different artists kind of the sweet spot, which hopefully is somewhere between, if you have a 12-track album, minimum of three, maybe kind of sweet spot is around 4 to 5, that you can serially release because you have your pre-release. That might be 2 singles. You're already going to exhaust 2 singles to get people interested in that you're back, that you're putting something out that lead into people buying albums. Like you, I used to have people in digital distribution came in and said, "Hey, I just released today." Like, what do you mean? It's Wednesday. Oh, well, I signed up and I released everything that I've been working on for the last year or so on the platform. So now how can I market it? It's like, you're in an interesting position. Actually, 12 weeks before, at least 12 weeks, ideally 16 or more weeks before you're going to release your album, you need to have these touch points with your fans. You can email. You're going to do social stuff. You're going to maybe do a live chat. You're going to get everyone excited about the one single you're going to release, 4 weeks before the album. And then you release another secret single 1 week before the album that you're going to tell your super fans about. Now you've got 2 singles out there, and now you need 3 more to actually release as the album is out, available for purchase. Get people like, oh, I like this band. Oh, they have a new album. I'm going to go listen to the album. All on streaming platforms in many cases to start. And then hopefully, they find you on socials, they go buy your physical albums, they go to see you if you're playing live. But it takes that kind of work to put together a marketing plan and an album release plan that's really going to be successful. And if you already have a fan base, you can do really cool things, like I mentioned earlier, and like you mentioned, release your physical 2 weeks before the streaming debut. Treat your fans and get some new fans who are like, oh, I guess, yeah, I want to hear that as soon as I can. So there are a lot of different things you can do, but it all takes planning. That's, I think that's maybe what you experience too. A lot of musicians come into this, they've got a great creative vision, but they haven't realized yet that they're actually running a business too.
I'm working with artists now that I would say is probably the ideal scenario where they came to me and they're like, I have a whole album done and let's talk marketing. They're like, I want to release this album sometime in the next year. The whole thing's done. I got the artwork, I got the content, I got videos, and like everything's good. Let's come up with a plan. And then, for this artist, what we decided was best was based on their genre. It wasn't. It's like a poppy. Or I don't want to get too specific, but kind of poppy-ish project.
Mm-hmm.
And they're releasing singles every month, every 4 to 6 weeks or so. But the album's available immediately. From the time the first single's out, it's, hey, you can go buy the whole thing now, or you can just wait. Or if you want, you can wait 10 months and it'll eventually come to streaming. Minus, I think one song that we're saving. But that's kind of, I think, the ideal scenario. Having your whole rollout for the next year done with content so you can do cool shit like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And also there's some many ways to do it, particularly if you're getting started. Think about an EP. You can do a 4, maybe max 5 song kind of mini project. So it's not as daunting. But you can turn out a couple singles on that, hold back a track, and release a EP on CD if you want. Or we still do 7-inch vinyl, believe it or not. You can do some pretty cool things that are engaging your fans, but maybe are easier ways to start if you're not going that direction that you were talking about. That direction, by the way, is fantastic. And the times I saw that in my time with CD Baby and other companies, 2% of the time. I think, particularly for artists starting out, it's like, well, I'm going to release my music and I know 12 people are going to listen to it right away. It's like, that's awesome. And what else are you going to do? And it's hard because, I know I'm supposed to release digitally. I know I'm supposed to do this. I think it's good music. And sometimes they'll get discovered. Maybe they get on, a TikTok system where people are using their music all the time. But that's really rare. So having a plan, having the discipline of doing the plan and doing it with some help. It's okay that you're a musician and you're not a marketer. There are people who like you, who are experienced that can guide you through that process. In the same way that Spinny Media is about distribution. It's like, when it comes to doing distribution professionally and getting everything to your fans on time and a reasonable cost, it's hard to do. Don't try to
Yeah.
do everything. Do what you're good at.
And as speaking of the marketing, like I own an ad agency, and so we get people hitting us up to market their songs or their albums or whatever. And the worst case scenario is we had someone hit us up this week for this exact thing, and they fill out our application form and we read it, and we have an auto generated reply that basically kind of gives them an idea of timeline, just when we'll get back to them, review their music, and go on. But typically, our turnaround time is like someone applies to us within a week or two, we can get a campaign live for a first song, depending. Ideally, we'd have more time than that. But this person replies back, it's like, no, this is urgent. Can you help me right away? My album came out, or my song came out 3 days ago. And
Mm-hmm.
like, he applied yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking, like, and this happens probably every once a week, something like that. And it's like, why didn't you think of marketing before 3 days after your song came out? Like, and it's a super common thing in the
Yeah.
artist world. They spend all this time and money in a lot of cases making this beautiful piece of music. They plan with the music, they plan with the studio time, the mastering engineer, and the artwork, and everything, and then they go to release it, and somehow they forget about the marketing entirely until it's out, and they're like, "Oh, I only have 5 streams in release day. I better like try to figure out how to get a promotion, like how to get it promoted." And that really should be happening ideally at least 2 weeks before release day.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating seeing it to have there's so many artists, and no matter how much I tell people to prepare, it's like it inevitably ends up happening relatively, because those artists didn't see my content and they don't know anything about marketing. They just knew they made music and they threw it online, and now no one's listening to it.
Yeah. And for those listening that have already done that or just did that, again, it's not an uncommon experience, but learn and
Yeah.
adjust. I think getting started in some way on having a release plan and working through it, learning what works and what doesn't work with your fan base is a huge step forward. And then you can really get good at it and have a custom strategy that really works for your fan base. But you have to start somewhere, and usually that's like stop releasing stuff without a marketing plan. Have a beginning
Yeah.
plan. Work with a partner if you can, and figure out how to test things. I'm a big fan of doing kind of pilots. Like, all right, here's what I want to prove. Here's how I'm going to measure whether it's successful or not. We'll get the single, 2 weeks, get some feedback. That didn't work, but we have another single we're going to release again in 2 more weeks. I've got some time to change my approach and try that. Do that with two
Yeah.
or three singles. You'll probably can get signal that some things work better than others.
Is there anything you want to leave the people with for any last minute words of wisdom, and or why they should come check out Spinny Media? There'll be a link in the description
Awesome.
for, I forget exactly what links you gave me, but I believe one was to spinnymedia.com. It's going to be in the description.
Yep.
Check it out. Yeah.
First of all, I would just say to every musician, thank you for putting your music out there. I am a frustrated musician myself. I had all the training. My dad is a musician and composer, and I decided to do writing and then music business instead, and DJ'd and other stuff. So I am a creator in different areas, and I am an avid music fan. So thank you to all the musicians who are really putting out their vision and their music out there. The world would be a horrible place without it. Even the music that depresses me, which I listen to a lot. So thanks for all that. And I think just a quick plug for Spinny Media. You'll see the description. You'll see the links. We're here for you. We are coming after decades of experience doing physical distribution for a lot of different companies over time. And we're still kind of personal and reachable enough that if you have a question, you can reach out and talk to us, and we'll give you some advice and we'll help you out. So if you've never done physical before, we can help recommend some manufacturers and a way to do things. If you've done it before and you kind of just need a light touch, we have a checkout flow where you can just do it yourself, ship your stuff in, and we'll take care of the rest. It's really important to have physical as part of your plan, and be everywhere where your fans are, like I said at the top. So we're happy to work with everybody, indie musicians, indie labels, small and even large. We've done this at scale, so really excited to be here and working with musicians who make the music I love.